Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Thomas, I have a few articles tomorrow that I want to post on Truth News headlines about Felix Sater, and I'm a little confused about him. He looks like a wackadoodle to me. Can you help fill folks in? Because I think these articles are pretty confusing.
Yes, Betsy, actually, you're quite right. He is a wackadoodle. He's a very violent person, and we'll talk about that because we're going to pat ourselves on the back because we're the ones who pointed out long ago who he was, why he's been connected to Trump, and why right now he's all over the news. Though you couldn't get anything on him before, now you just get more stuff than ever. You can even recently he put out a video of him receiving an award from his rabbi, and the rabbi saying, "I've known him all this time. I don't even believe these things. I mean, he's the hero. He's the greatest hero in American history. He is the greatest FBI asset, CIA asset. He got Obama's telephone numbers when no one else could. He went in and penetrated North Korea when no one else could. He did every single thing that the CIA needed done. And oh my gosh, he was always there. He was always Johnny on the spot." Those were all lies.
See, that's where I got so confused because I saw the video. I think I posted that on Truth News Headlines, which I thought was kind of odd. And then these two articles that I have linked below. And who is he?
Well, as we pointed out before, Betsy, he is a Comey Mueller spy. He is an agent. He always has been since he got in trouble when he was young. And he was in a bar brawl where he cut a guy up to pieces after taking a glass and breaking it and then cutting him up. And then later, again, multiple times he was arrested by the FBI, and he was for basically stealing millions of dollars from people as a broker. But now, let's just put things in perspective. We said a long time ago, and maybe you could hook them up with the video, where we point out that Felix Sater was Comey's man. He was Comey's man that helped get together all kinds of the 28 treasonous acts that Comey did. I think 3 or 4 of them were directly connected to Felix Sater. Felix Sater is the person who, during the campaign, the second that he found out that Comey realized that the DNC had been breached and that they were going to be exposed for their Russian connections, he contacted Felix Sater and started working with him from March on. So he told Felix Sater, penetrate the Trump campaign. So Felix came and volunteered and did everything he could. Now, he had one association with Trump. He had helped Trump raise money for the Soho Trump Towers, and he had pulled in some rich Russian guys. I'll tell you why in a minute. And so Trump knew him because he had an office right near him, and Felix Sater was all the time trying to do deals with Trump. So he jumps into his campaign and volunteers and never really does anything. As a matter of fact, Trump, when asked about him, said, I don't know if I'd recognize the guy if he was in the room. I've met him before a few times. We did some deals with the Soho Towers, but really, I don't know him. Well, this is the guy, Felix Sater, who then went to Ivanka and Jared and took them to Russia and said, I know Putin, and I'm going to get you a Trump Towers in Moscow and one in Georgia and one in the Crimea, and it was all lies. And he's the one who went to Franklin Furor through Slate and said he was basically Comey's agent, who went there and got Franklin Furor to print the false articles and gave him the money from the FBI, which has yet to be proven, but will be shown to be proven when we really look at the records of Fusion GPS. Because all these things were run not out of the FBI with money. Fusion GPS was given $12 million by the DNC. And so they had unlimited money to do the dossier, to gather Sidney Blumenthal's Cody Shearer's dossier, and Bruce Orr's dossier, and Comey's dossier, and Fusion GPS's dossier through Nellie Orr, and all the dossiers, 5 of them, got all mixed up, and then given to Christopher Steele, another criminal exactly like Felix Sater. Christopher Steele is the British version of Felix Sater. Now, why do I say that? Let me explain who Felix Sater is. Not only did he also got into the Russian lawyer, the female lawyer who had the meeting with...
Veselnitsky.
Yes.
The Russian.
I was trying to think of her exact name. Veselnitskaya.
Yeah, there you go.
Alexandra Veselnitskaya had a meeting with them, and that was set up by Felix Sater. Always Comey's man on the spot. Who was interacting between the other Comey spy, Carter Page, who was already turned to be a spy on Russia, and then they told him to go and volunteer and join the Trump camp. By the way, both Carter Page and particularly Felix said he was part of the campaign. No, he wasn't. Carter Page was ordered, and they had to put an injunction on him not to come around. So Comey's two guys, his two people who he had turned to be assets of the FBI, and this is, I hate it, when they take a criminal, a horrible like Felix Sater. By the way, that's not his name. I will mention that in a second. But Felix Sater was a criminal. He should have gone to jail. He becomes an FBI asset. And then he goes out and rips off people for millions and millions and millions. They let him do it. And then when they need him to do another job that's really a dangerous job, they charge him for ripping people off. And then instead of sending him to jail, and this is all in the record and it's in the articles we're going to connect you with, then they let him not go to jail, and then they let him do another deal where he's another asset, where he's supposedly penetrating just the most amazing spy in the whole world. By the way, that's a lie. So, on and on and on, they used Felix Sater. They used him with Sergei Milian. They used him with Carter Page. They used him with George Papadopoulos. They used him with Alexander Downer. They used him with the whole thing. He was Comey's man. He was the connecting piece between all of this. So, when Mueller called Felix Sater to be questioned, Felix did not like that. Because Felix is as guilty as anyone could possibly ever be on so many crimes that you can't list them all. So when he was called to Mueller's investigation, Mueller was probably trying to get some information on Trump. He didn't have any. Felix Sater has come out publicly and said, there's no collusion between Trump and Putin and Russia. I tried to get it going and I couldn't. Well, Mueller doesn't like that. So there must have been internal pressure put on him, because recently Felix Sater has come out and he's exposed the whole thing. And what does Felix Sater say he does? Because when I tell you who he is, you're really going to be shocked. He says he was the guy who got the telephone numbers that found Osama bin Laden. In other words, he takes credit for being the one man who did what everyone else in the world was trying to do, is find Osama bin Laden. But he just comes up with the numbers and it's no problem. He penetrated North Korea. He stopped their nuclear program. He penetrated Syria. He penetrated Russia. He went to Russia for 2 years for Comey to do the background setup for the collusion with all. You go, what? In these articles you go, there's no way this guy did this. There's no way he did any of it, because he didn't. Here's who he really is. I'm going to say this name, and I probably shouldn't. But I've said this before, and to give you, for those who want to do deeper research, I'll give you the name. Simeon Mikhailovich. I'm not going to repeat it. He is one of the most powerful Russian mafia oligarchs in the face of the earth. The last time someone mentioned his name and connected him
let's just not even go there.
To certain people, the person was shot down in the street in Russia the next day. So he is the guy who controls the Russian mafia through New York. And if you think the Russian mafia isn't in control of New York and our uranium, you're wrong. Uranium is the most expensive thing in America. More expensive than gold. The Russians control it. 10 they put Vadim Minikin in jail because of the Russian oligarchs basically muscling, extorting, blackmailing our entire nuclear industry. Yeah, that's right. They control our entire nuclear industry with the help of Robert Mueller, who did a 10-year investigation on them with the help also of Comey. And what did they find? Oh, only one guy did one thing wrong. Okay, that's just a cover-up. Don't get me started on that. What we're talking about here is the FBI and the Department of Justice uses these criminals in ways that are criminal, and they shouldn't. So, the man I named His main guy in New York, whose name I'm not going to mention, because he changed it, is Felix's dad. I'm not going to tell you Felix's dad's name. But let's just say he is the most powerful Russian oligarch in New York, and he is connected to the most powerful oligarch that even Putin is scared of. Now, there are others. I mentioned my favorite one yesterday, Oleg Perekoski. He is in our business. He is the aluminum king, and he fought with Bill Browder, who was an American, changed to being British so he wouldn't have to pay any taxes. And Bill Browder happens to have made more money off of Russia than anyone, including Putin. How does that happen? Because Bill Browder's Hermitage Foundation, Hermitage brokerage company, did all the deals for the oligarchs. So he gets a cut on all of it. So he moved to Britain so he wouldn't have to pay taxes. How about Leonid Blavitnik? He is a Russian, still on Gazprom board, the largest, most powerful board in Russia. He became a British citizen, and then he became an American citizen. Now he donates second only to George Soros the most amount of money to the Democratic National Party. So there's a lot of Russian collusion going on. And so when you talk about Felix Sater, you're talking about the Russian mob as high as you can go, directly working for James Comey. Now, he came out recently.
Who's the he?
That would be Felix Sater, the liar, who didn't do any of the things that they say he did. None of them. There's no evidence that he did any of that. And when you hear him or hear him speak, or you look at his real history, you will realize that he cannot be the things that they are saying he did. He came out and said all of those things, and then after the fact, they had to say, yeah, that's right, yeah. Felix Sater is the greatest hero in American espionage history, but we didn't want to mention it, and we're not going to talk about it again now. So, okay, we're done with this. They're not going to verify any of it. He has been out all over the news. Why is he doing that? Because he fears that Mueller is going to use him as the next Russian connection. Because he is a Russian spy. And he did work with Trump. But guess what? There's nothing illegal.
But does Mueller know who his daddy is?
That's a very good point. Does Robert Mueller think he's more powerful than Felix Sater's father and his Russian mafia boss?
Oh, another showdown. Oh, Mueller does.
Yes, because Mueller is the one who delivered the yellow cake uranium to Putin to get the Uranium One deal going. Without Mueller, the Uranium One deal couldn't have happened. The hundreds of millions of dollars couldn't have come to Hillary. It couldn't have been covered up. Comey couldn't have covered up what Mueller did. The 10-year-long investigation on Uranium One, which allowed it to continue for 10 years. And then Douglas Campbell, they tried to put a gag order on him. He was the FBI asset that turned this in and actually got the conviction. He was their star witness. They put a gag order on him. They released the gag order, and now no one wants to talk to him. But he says he saw physically millions of dollars be delivered to Clinton Foundation. He physically saw it with his own eyes. And it was those types of remarks and testimony that put Vadim Minikin, the Russian oligarch in charge of Tenam, the Uranium One scandalous company, in jail. So when Mueller is going after Russians, it's very interesting that he didn't even investigate the real Russians. So when we now have, and don't get confused, folks, when you hear that the House Intelligence Committee has found there's no Russian collusion with the Democrats or the Republicans, don't forget, that is not the House Permanent Select Intelligence Committee that Nunes is on. Okay? So be very clear about this. The investigation from the House Intelligence Committee, completely fake. They read the Nunes memo like the rest of us did, and they couldn't find any Democratic collusion with Russia during the election. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And mind you, that's the fourth investigation of 6 that are going on. Okay? So when they say there's no collusion, that's just because, remember, also Mueller just said what? In my mind, I mean, the report literally says that they understand what Mueller is thinking in his mind. He didn't even say it out loud. No. In Mueller's mind, it says Mueller is considering, it's beautiful how these fake reports in the news actually know the very mind of the person, and so they don't need a leak.
I don't know, with all the back doors and spying going on in our computers today, maybe they are looking at his notes to self.
Well, the deal is that Mueller is now saying, supposedly, he's going to back off on Trump collusion. First off, he cannot investigate Trump collusion. It's not a crime. Okay, first off. Second off,
Well,
he can't investigate Manafort. Look at Manafort's counter suit. Manafort has sued Mueller and Rosenstein. And they've basically said, you can't do this because there is no parameter in the beginning of this investigation that allowed you to go where the phrase, anything that might arise from the investigation. Under the law, it's not a law now, it used to be a law for the special counsel. Now it's a regulation, which Americans for Innovation, we just pointed out in a talk, I think, last night, that in fact, the special counsel cannot do half the stuff it does, but they sure can't go after whatever arises. And they sure can't go after collusion because that's not a crime. They could go and look whether there was Russian interference in the election. That would be a crime. But it could not in any way involve Trump. And Trump collusion with Russia, there is no such thing. There is no such crime. Collusion doesn't exist anywhere in the law except in
this whole
one very, very specific case of antitrust law. But you can't have collusion with the Russians. That doesn't exist. It's not a crime. Therefore, Mueller's entire investigation, according to Manafort's lawyers, who will win the case, by the way, probably, but oh, that's right.
Well,
they stuck in an Obama judge. They
Yeah,
stuck in a new Obama judge for Manafort's lawsuit against Mueller. After the fact, it was assigned to someone, then reassigned to an Obama favorite. And so Mueller, we don't know what will happen with Mueller. We don't know what will happen with Manafort facing off with a lawsuit against Mueller. But we can say Mueller is desperate. And so what we suggest is the following. Once Mueller called Felix Sater to his grand jury indictment, his fake grand jury indictment and his fake investigation, that really got Felix Sater worried. Now, Felix Sater is a very violent man. He's known for a lot of violence. He got very upset. And so he went to every news agency he could. And all at once, he started spilling the beans about all the things that they say he did in secret as an asset for the FBI so that he would look like a hero when in fact he is one of the biggest criminals in America. And so he spilt all these stories. No one can verify them. No one will verify them. And they're all lies. But what it does do is if in fact Mueller says, no, we found the spy, and that's Felix Sater, and they want to actually have to come up with somebody, I think Felix got scared. And I don't think that would have happened. But I think that Felix would not have come out and said everything that he said, because he's the lying, stinking sack of manure that said he gave Michael D. Cohen, Trump's lawyer, a letter stating a peace deal, raising the sanctions that were on Russia, stopping the sanctions on the Russians. So he tried to set up Michael Cohen with a letter to Trump to say, no, I've already talked to Putin and Trump's agreed to lift the sanctions because I gave the letter to Michael Cohen and he gave it to Trump. This all came out in the news, one after the next of these fake Comey attempts to take Trump down, even once he was the president and before, during, and after. But anyway, what happened then? Michael Cohen said to the press, that never happened. I never met him at that restaurant. I never got such a letter. He's a liar. You think that stops Felix Sater? No. He again then went to Frank LaFleur. He went to the Russian lawyer meeting with the Trump team. He went to help out setting up George Papadopoulos. He worked with all these people. He was Comey's man on the scene. Why? Because he had just been charged with stealing millions of dollars from the SEC, charged him in the FBI. They always have charges against him, as I said. So they brought their charges against him, got a conviction, and then they got him now to do all this stuff. And he'll do more. And he'll do more because he is such an idiot that he's not part of the Russian mob. He's too stupid. He's too violent. He lives too long of a trail, and though his father is connected to the most powerful man, perhaps, bar except Vladimir Putin, in Russia, he isn't part of the mafia. That's the reason he had to scrounge around and beg Trump for a deal and always trying to do deals and deals and deals and deals. They don't want anything to do with him because they can't control him. And so when the Russian mob rejects somebody, Comey and Mueller picks them up. Now, isn't that pathetic? Same thing with Carter Page. Poor, pathetic little Carter Page, who was set up as an FBI spy. And then they told recently the whole story so that now the Russians know that they were scammed by this idiot who they called an idiot, Carter Page. And they put a microphone in these little folders he gave them so that they took it all the way back to Russia. And the FBI had a bug in the office of one of the major sections for economy in Russia because Carter Page planted it there. And then they wanted to say Carter Page was the Russian spy going to bring billions of dollars to Trump out of Russia.
Okay, we've gotten like way out in the weeds. So let's reel it in, darling.
Okay, well, the Russians, you see.
Let's see. I know, but
it's
Felix Sater. So why is he showing up in the news? Well, not in the regular news, but in the
all over the news.
Yeah, well, okay, various versions. So why now? Is he
Because
going to be a sacrificial lamb?
He's afraid he was going to be, so he had to get this out as his alibi. It's like Donna Brazil's book. It's like Ellison's confession. It's like John Weiner's confession. It's like all these people jumping ships going, but I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. But as they're saying they didn't do anything, they make their confession.
So can I tell the folks what you and the folks at Americans for Innovation are up to?
Yes.
So, yes, because I think it's very exciting. A while back, we did a citizen intelligence report on the senior executive services. Wow, did that thing get a lot of hits. I guess a lot of the folks in SES were passing it among themselves because it really outs them as being Obama's army. And we have been digging, and the researchers at Americans for Innovation, who have such an incredible knack for finding these jewels that the government leaves behind and been able to piece them together, they've uncovered even more outrageous things about SES. And I understand that you and the spokesperson for AFI, which is Michael McKibben, will be discussing this tomorrow evening.
It's so shocking. When SES came out, people didn't realize that this organization of 9,100 people actually rules Washington, D.C. 8,000 of them are Obama appointees. We are the first ones to actually bring that out into print with an intelligence report based upon Field McConnell's work from Able Danger, because his sister, Christine Marcy, actually created the SES. She always ends up creating these evil things. Anyway, we're going to talk about this because you are going to be shocked.
I was
when
like,
you hear,
guys.
I couldn't even believe it. I had to just stay on the phone for a long time saying, are you serious? There's an executive order?
No, don't spoil it.
There's an executive order I can
it.
read by Obama that says all this? And, oh, yes, there is.
Okay.
So we're going to tell you all about, as you called it, Obama's army, or what can literally be called the shadow government, how it works, where it got started, the provisions, and why, and what Trump needs to do about it. And by the way, Donald Trump, sir, great move on Broadcom.
Yes, very good.
Thank you. We talked
Yes.
about that last night and told you it was the biggest national security issue that there could possibly be. You were being attacked. Thank you for today reversing your opinion and telling CFIUS before they gave you a recommendation that you didn't want it. I don't know why you changed your mind. Thank you. Good decision. So those people who doubt Donald Trump just ought to really wait and see what he ends up doing instead of the art of the deal.